What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks. And we back in the building, you feel me? It's True Talks. Cause True Talks, alright? Let's get straight right into it. So you already know. What up, everybody? How y'all doing? Appreciate y'all. Before we even start anything, you already know, share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here, and there's no drought here. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And click that notification button so you know when I'm here. Because I'm here. You feel me? Let's get straight right into it. All right, so you already know. But basically, the last, from Friday and from Sunday's game was obviously, back-to-back losses for the Clippers. The Clippers lost at home both times. Both times they lost at home, which obviously isn't a good look. I'm going to be pointing out factors and pointing out things and reasons and basically my takeaways from the games, those last two games, those last two losses. Obviously, Paul George didn't play in those two games. Friday against the Celtics, Sunday at home versus, the Kings. Obviously, Kemba and Tatum were there. And then for the Kings, you had De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, but Fox was the main one putting in work, right? Going to see me when I work, you feel me? So basically, we got to address what basically transpired, what happened, how Kawhi looked. Obviously, PG, so you already know, like, Kennard's getting more minutes. I think he pretty much was starting. Let's actually fact check that, if I remember. Yes, Kennard was starting versus Celtics, and he started versus the Kings. So Kennard replaced PG in the starting lineup. Obviously, that means more minutes for everybody else, more minutes for Man, more minutes for, a bunch of people. So when you look at it from that perspective, this is not the same team you're going to see, obviously, but still, regardless, given those situations that they've been in, given that it was the clutch time, I trust mine, they're supposed to get the win. They're supposed to get the dub. Let's just be honest. They're supposed to get the dub. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to get the dub. There's supposed to be no excuse. Just produce. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when you look at it from that perspective, obviously, it's not what elite looks like. And we're going to dive into what basically happened. So let's go into that context. Because I gave it that context. Let's go straight right into it, boy. So we're not going to go into the full clips. You already know, because the games are obviously more outdated. But I'm just going to give my insight, give my IQ. That's what I do. And then as I speak, they're going to put me to the corner. They'll put me in the bottom. But buckets fall like it's autumn. You feel me? Even though we in winter. But anyways, you already know. They're going to, the clips are going to come through. And basically what's relevant is going to play. So as you know, basically what transpired with the, especially the first game. Let's dive into the Celtics first. As we look into what happened with the Celtics, right? The Celtics, I know obviously, what transpires in the first three quarters and then, the upper half and on top part of the game. We understand that obviously leads into the, that's more context. That obviously leads into what happens in the clutch and whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, you got to look at it from this perspective. If a game's in the clutch, this is how I look at it. And this is kind of what the hoopers and what everybody kind of just looks at it from, the real context and the real, hoopers and just true IQ of how you look at it. If a game's obviously a blowout, you obviously take into what transpires. Obviously, in a series, you look at the bulk of everything. What is the negatives? What is the weaknesses? This lineup versus this lineup. How we played this. How our schemes was with this. How we moved with this and that. And that could apply to first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, or fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really fully matter. It does matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. But it doesn't really fully matter if the game is tied with 5 minutes left to go. Now we focus on everything is context. Everything is it's a hierarchy. This matters, this matters, this matters. These are so prevalent and so, so focused on is if it becomes a blowout and the game's not even close, then those things that happen are actually the reason why we lost, because you could tell. Right? But if those things are happening, but at the end of the day, we overcame it and we're still in a tug of war, type of battle, you know what I'm saying? And we're back and forth and we're actually in a clutch game, a clutch situation, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, tie game, down 1, down 2, down 3, 4, 5. You know what I'm saying? Then we don't really focus too much on that because those things literally are, they give or take, they change. They kind of change between every game. So you could have just been playing lazy, or all those type of things. They're factors, but at the end of the day, now it's serious. We now know, okay, it's clutch time. Do I trust mine? Let's gear. Now it's all pressure. Everything is different magnitude, different context. We're focused. Erase what happened. Let's go. That's kind of the Hooper's mind. Erase what happened in the third quarter. Right now, it's 5 minutes left. Let's go now. You know what I'm saying? What are we doing? And that's kind of what I kind of focus on. So when it comes to the clutch, obviously, like, Karnar was playing good, and there's other things you could focus on. They played bad coverage here, and whatever the case is, but that happens every game. Like, no game is flawlessly perfect, especially if it's not a blowout. So you're going to understand, I don't really focus on those type of things when it comes down to when the game came down to the last end of the part, the last 5 minutes, the clutch situation. So now that it's clutch situation, both of these games were clutch situations. So obviously, I'm not going to waste time focusing on what happened in the, first, third part. Those things will be more prevalent in other situations, and, we'll focus on them more often if they were to come up again and whatever the case is. Now, it doesn't mean, like I said, those things aren't an issue, but it's not the real reason. Let's focus on the real reason. So when we look at the Celtics game, let's go look at the last, Kawhi comes back in. Let's even check exactly what transpired. So throughout the whole game, obviously, you can tell I don't really, stats. Obviously, Kawhi was 8 for 15, 0 for 5 from the three-point line. And a lot of it, let me give context. Before we dive into what happened with Kawhi, a lot of it, as you know, some of it is Kawhi's tendency. He does later, closer to where the clock drops down to 0. Obviously, the more the clock drops, in terms of the fourth quarter, from 3 minutes to 2 minutes to 1 minute, the more the clock decreases or drops, the level of pressure increases and rises, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, Kawhi's my guy, but you know me, it's about the game first and everything else second. Kawhi, if you pay attention to Kawhi, this is why I say there's a difference between him and KD, right? Kawhi has to get to his specific spots, which is more so the elbows, right? He doesn't just come through and just pull up from 3. Like, he doesn't really just do that. Like, everywhere's not his spot. He has specific spots he naturally gets to where he's comfortable, where I can just rise, and this is just bread and butter, which is not a problem. But what happens if your spot gets cut off? What happens if you don't get to the spot? What happens if you got to pull from the... Those are the situations where there's a difference. There's a tier difference. And that's why I say Kawhi was 1B to KD's 1A, because KD, if you take him away from his spot, or the spot he likes to get to, the spot he likes to get to also is also here too. He can still do a hezzy pull up from 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, he literally has unlimited ability. There's no spot. It's like there's no limitation. So that's why you could see him consistently through minute 10, through minute 1, through minute 4, through minute 5, through minute 3, 2, 1, 30 seconds. He could still get a shot off comfortably, and it's not like a rush shot. It doesn't look forced. Even if it looks forced, it's still, like, when it goes up, you're like, that's a bucket. Like, when he misses, you're surprised. You get what I'm saying? With the fact that he does this at an efficient rate, 50, 40, almost 90, basically. So when you look at it from that, and it's not that Kawhi isn't efficient, he's efficient too. But when you take him off his spot, is he really efficient? And that's the different breakdown, different deep level context I kind of make people pay attention to. And not only that, when you add that with the fact that if he doesn't get to a spot normally, he kind of doesn't flow the same. He doesn't guarantee to get a bucket. It's more misses than none, more bad situations or a turnover or whatever the case is than none. And now when you add the fact that that's just normally how Kawhi moves, which is why you notice he's clutch and he's putting in work at the top 4, 6, 4 minute, 3 minute, 2 minute. But then when it gets to that closer 1 minute down stretch, you could see where if he's rushed off his spot and rushed off certain comfortabilities and certain comfortable situations, it's more so like, right? He might pass it, or he might, it's not as clean as the top tier like I'm talking about in terms of KD. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always like that. That's what I'm saying. It's not always like that, but there's a plethora of situations where you could see exactly what I'm saying, right? So now when you look at it and you remove that, now that you want to add the fact that what's affecting this a lot is the fact that Kawhi now, because of the whole situation with last year with the bubble and the whole situation with, oh my God, fatigue. They weren't used to the fatigue. They weren't used to this. He needs to do this. He needs to change. They didn't have good chemistry because of, just sitting out every other game and this and that and that. And to me, I always thought that was cap because that's the same thing he did in Toronto. In Toronto, he did the same load management, back-to-back, I sit out. And if you notice, earlier in the week, he played a back-to-back. Let me do my due diligence and making sure that, give me 1 second here. Just let me do my due diligence here. Yes, so they basically, the back-to-back was, I think it was Nets Cavaliers. He played in both. So what I mean by this is that this affects Kawhi. It doesn't look like it, or it might not look like it, but you'll notice as when I start playing clips, you'll see that some shots were short. Even some free throws he would miss was short. Like, it affects him. He has basically, degenerate, chronic, wear and tear in his knees. Like, that's something that's never gonna fix. So you have to control the load, so he could be more so polished and more so have spring in his step and a bounce in his step each and every game. The more you cut off the wear and tear and you give less rest and, you play a back-to-back, that's going to affect him more than someone else who plays a back-to-back where it's just tired and fatigued. His is not just tired and fatigued. He gets, like, when you're in fatigue all the time, you naturally do things you won't do. You don't box out. You can see him getting blown by versus Fox. And in situations where it's like, oh my God, what's going on here, right? In both games, it's like he's not playing as clean defense as he would play. And all those things affect, because it comes down to, it's not just the fatigue, it's also the fatigue in the legs, the fatigue in the body, right? So when you see that, that's going to affect his play even now when he's already sometimes moves Fugazi when the clock decreases. Now even more, he's going to move Fugazi naturally just from fatigue and wear and tear. So I know that obviously media and everyone in Ty Lue, the reason why they're doing this is because the whole, based off last year, the media has destroyed them and basically said they have to do something different. They have to play back-to-backs. They can't just, do this and do that and do that. And that's cap. That's actually cap. They changed the offense. They have Ibaka there. There's a lot of things happening that if you actually gave him the same rest he got in Toronto, he got a ring doing load management. So that's not the issue. That was never the issue. But media has made it this way, so now obviously it's going to look bad if Ty Lue doesn't play in a back-to-back. The minute he doesn't play a back-to-back, they haven't talked about the Clippers all the time. The minute he doesn't play a back-to-back, they're obviously going to say, look at Kawhi again. He's sitting out. He's doing the same shit he did last year. They're not going to be this. They're not going to be that. So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, you know what? Obviously, you can see that Ty Lue is playing into that game, and that affected Kawhi in these clutch situations. You know what I mean? Which is not, that's something where I'm like, if they keep doing this, is this going to affect them playoff time? That's something I still know Kawhi's a robot and he's going to find a way, but it's not a good sign for me long term by them diving into what media dictated, is dictating them how they should move. And then obviously the whole reason why Kawhi snaps and rises his level of play in playoffs is due to his rest, due to easing off the wear and tear, easing off this and that, right? So I don't like, this is not a recipe for success that I'm seeing. Just me, just me diving into how Kawhi moves and how he naturally plays and how he naturally, moves at a clean level of play where he brings his excellence and everything comes to fruition in the playoffs because he rises his level of play in the playoffs. Kawhi's all about playoffs. He don't care about MVP, don't care about all that shit. That kind of just, he sacrifices that with his whole, load management. He wants to be at a high elite point when it matters, to put buckets on a platter. So when you look at it from that perspective, that's not a recipe for success that I look at for the future and for the long run. But we move past that. Look at these plays in versus Celtics, right? So when you look at it versus Celtics, down the stretch, if we look at it, right, basically, he came in the game with what? I think it's 7 minutes. He comes in for Terrence Mann. That's been the normal rotation that he does when, PG's not here. You know what I'm saying? He comes in, and when he comes in now, he's actually basically, he didn't really go to full work. He didn't go to full work. He did still get a 1-2 bucket, right? He still got a 1-2 bucket, as we've seen how he came in round 7-16. He came in, and then, he hit a pull-up, right? He hit a pull-up versus Celtics. He hit a pull-up, and then, obviously they were missing. They weren't getting rebounds, all that type of stuff. And then we're just looking at Kawhi just in general in the clutch, right? We're not looking at everything in the grand scheme. Right, so then Kawhi obviously now, he doesn't take a couple of shots. He doesn't really take. He got poked in the eye, came out again, and then came back in. And then when he came back in, you look at it, he basically, made another jump shot when he came back in. And then after that, 2:46 when he made another pull up or whatever. He he had a turnover, which was a crucial turnover. Jason Tatum played great defense, but like I said, that's a testament to obviously the fatigue in his legs, but also him always trying to get to a specific spot every single time, trying to get to that elbow down, pull up type of, mid-range down situation instead of just turning around and fading, right? And just pulling up or killing him 1-2 dribble limited pull-ups and all that type of stuff. He didn't do that, obviously, and then Jason Tatum, great defense there. And then when you look at it again, what happened? Another turnover. You know what I'm saying? Another turnover again in the clutch. He had another turnover where, he did make a good pass to Lou Will, obviously, right? He made a good pass to Lou Will, but then after that, again, another turnover. He got another turnover, and when he got another turnover, that obviously led to now a Kemba Walker type of pull-up. You know what I'm saying? A Kemba Walker step back, elite ability, and got a bucket, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, that one was just he could have just held it, called timeout, or just kind of dribble out laterally up, you know what I'm saying, instead of just trying to go. But I already know his transition instincts kick in, and Jason Tatum made another good play. But those are two terrible turnovers you can't have. You can't have. That literally changed the whole trajectory and the whole dynamic of the game. You know what I'm saying? So now they're behind, and now they have to get a three, right? They have to just get a bucket, period. Kawhi misses a jump shot, and Kawhi misses another jump shot, and that one was a good look. That one was back rim. But again, it's more so with Kawhi always trying to get to his spot. Now, I'm not too mad at that shot that much at all. Like, that one, I like that take. If anyone I want the ball in his hands, it's Kawhi. If anyone I'm going to trust that, I'm going to trust Kawhi. But that's just a lot of the times in clutch situation, he doesn't make those, and it's just me being honest, right? But I'm okay with that look. That's a back rim miss. That's not more so fatigue. He actually fought through it in that situation. But, it's just a pull-up he missed and whatever. They make 2 free throws, and now you're going for a 3. I don't like this 3 that they took. You know what I'm saying? I don't like this 3 that they took at all, right? Obviously, like this situation where they, actually, no, that was the other game. My fault. This Kawhi took this 3. The other game I'm talking about, that's my fault. Kawhi took this 3. And this is where I'm talking about the ability right here. This ability right here, this is a signature. KD has a pull-up. Like, he's shooting, obviously, length, he's shooting over them, but Kawhi don't take shots like these. And this is what I'm saying. This is why it affects him. In this situation, I would rather them do like a play, maybe Kennard, maybe down screen. This is where they would normally, PG is more so, he's crucial, and he's more so the main go-to guy in this situation. They need a 3. That's where his Ray Allen, his down screen, Rip Hamilton, come off screens ability gets used. That's what you saw him do versus the Nets. When they need a 3, he's the one who comes off screens and whatever and catches shoots, and and he pulls up off of these 3s. And Kawhi doesn't really, he's more so catch and shoot 3s, and then he'll kind of dribble and do his, his 1 foot, acts like he's going, but then kind of it's a semi step back, not really, and he shoots the 3. He doesn't really hesitate pull up, and he doesn't wear like when he's in rhythm, but he doesn't really like have a go-to 3-point shot creation, arsenal. He doesn't really have that, and that's where I say he's more so spots. Even if they ran pick and roll, but it's hard to, they'll trap the pick and roll. But you know what I mean? It's more so spots with Kawhi, and that's why I say there's a tier difference between him and KD. You know what I mean? And created in the clutch. You know what I'm saying? So that I didn't like that take at all, but I did like the fact that he took it. You know what I'm saying? No fear, take the shot. It wasn't too much of a bad miss, but I knew it was going to miss regardless. We've seen this time and time again. Like, Kawhi rarely makes those from 3 for game tires. Like, he rarely does that, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, the game was basically done after that, right? The game was basically done, especially when it comes for the Celtics. And that's where, they got to win that game. And the fact that it came down to the clutch, that's something where Kawhi's got to take over. He's got to put the team on his back, put the team on his shoulder, and take over, you know what I mean? And show that you're a closer. And that's where he failed. And some of it is the fatigue in the legs. Some of it is, just he lacks that ability. And that's just being honest, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I like the tandem of him and PG, because needing a 3 in situations, we go to PG more so. Needing a 2 in situations, we go to Kawhi more so, right? And that's where, you know what I mean, you can see it's affecting Lou Will. Even if needing a 3, I'd rather even go more, to be honest, I'd rather go to Lou Will more than going to Kawhi more and have him come off the screen and like Luo gets those threes, those lane in threes going to the left. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. And you want him in that situation more so. And it's just me being honest. You know what I'm saying? It's just me being honest. Kawhi's my guy. You already know that. You know what I'm saying? He gave Raptors a ring. But at the end of the day, I'm just being honest to what, I'm not being biased or anything like that. I'm just being honest to like he lacks that ability. And now the fatigue factor plays more of a part in the next game with the Kings. You know what I'm saying? And the Kings, like, you look at it, like, I'm looking in clutch situations, and I'm looking at Kawhi's defense on Fox, and I know Fox is fast, and all that type of stuff. Like, Kawhi's getting blown by. Like, he's actually angling him the way he wants to angle him, and he doesn't just move with him. He doesn't move with him, and it's not just the speed. It's actually the fact that, I could see in his legs, like, his legs aren't there, and Kawhi would have games like that, and it's the back-to-back that affected him. You could see that. Normally, like, especially in the clutch, he ramps up his level. Especially he's resting, and he's coming in like 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Like, it's not like he's hella burst, but he's burst because his legs he just has no legs because of the back-to-back and those things. And you could see that in his even his defensive play. Now, when like you see him missing free throws, we need those. He's missing those, and it's short. Even look at his misses in the Kings game. A lot of it is short, front rim, and then bouncing. Right? So you look at it from that perspective, that's where I'm like, you know what? Bruh, that affected him clearly. Clearly, that affected him. He probably will come back. Like, there's been a couple days rest that they've had, so now he'll probably bounce back in the next game. But, you know what I mean? Like, that, I didn't like to see that. You know what I mean? Just the fact that, Kawhi is Kawhi. You know that. So you have to control his situation. But anyways, like Kawhi enters the game 7 minutes, and he comes in, and he wasn't even basically a big factor of the game. Like, it was Luo taking a lot of the shots. Luo was playmaking with Zubats, and Zubats was getting fouls. Luo making a three, you know what I'm saying? And then you look at it from that perspective. Like, when Kawhi got it, he obviously, his first take he got was a dunk. A first, transition dunk and whatever. But then he misses another jump shot, right? A pull-up. He misses a pull-up. And then basically, he misses another pull-up. And then he even gets fouled. And then he misses a free throw. And again, it's short, front rim, you know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. And then you could just see it's just, the attrition, just the wear and tear you could obviously see in his body. So when you look at it, I'm like, come on now. Like, regardless, there's no excuse just to fight through. And then what happens? Kawhi travels again. Like, his legs aren't there. His foot planting, like, you can see his legs aren't there. He gets to travel. Like, him getting turnovers in the clutch, like, I don't want to see that. Kawhi has to fight through that. I don't want to see that looking real sloppy. And a lot of it is, like, again, when you have fatigue in your legs, like I said, wear and tear. Now, when you have fatigue in your whole body, now your brain fatigue that your body will not normally naturally fight through, the mental fatigue, you're already tired. Your body is tired. And when that combination of those two, now your brain now is tired. The combination of those two, the brain tired, like you're physically tired, your body is physically tired. Now you're mentally tired because you can't fight through it. All three just coexist at the same time. Now you do sloppy things you won't even actually ever do. Dribbling off your foot, traveling because the foot planting is not there. Just a lot of things, just mental breakdowns. You know what I'm saying? Getting blown by on defense that you see him happen. Like, a lot of these things transpire. That's why they always say conditioning is important. You have a proper condition. You work on free throws while fatigued. You work on, jump shots while fatigued, while tired on your workouts. You get your conditioning to a high level because you're always going to be fatigued regardless. But your body, you get your point to where your body is just not feeling fatigued. Your mind and your physical, I'm panting and out of breath, might feel fatigued, but your body isn't. So your body and your mind pushes you through those fatigues. When all three are fatigued at the same time, that's recipe for disaster. And that happens to anybody. That could be Kobe, MJ, that could be anybody. You know what I'm saying? But what happens is they're so mentally strong. They're mentally strong that they actually fight through what their body is actually telling them. But Kawhi has wear and tear, and he just, that's literally what the bubble was in that Game 7 too. That's literally what it came down to. That's why you see him panting and out of breath more than he ever would be out of breath. And it's not an excuse. It's just explaining Kawhi, Kawhi just how Kawhi moves in general. So when I see those things, you want to avoid it by, that's why the missing a game off the back-to-back is crucial. But even then, regardless, Kawhi is that guy. He's supposed to fight through this. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to fight through this. But I'm just explaining. This is what I see. When I see these misses and whatever, that's what I see. Then what did he do? He fought through in the last end. He tried to get it, right? Get in the situation he wanted to get it. And normally ISO he would kill. And when he wanted to pull up, I think Barnes was on him. He didn't. Obviously, him force pickup. I always hate when he does that shit. But even then. And one of the takes he even did versus the Celtics where he pulled on the fadeaway. I loved it too. Where he pulled on the double team. Normally he wouldn't do that. He actually did that. So I like that. Right? But anyways, you look at it here now versus the Kings. He's about to, pull up his Barnes on him. Then what happens? He kicks it out to Batum, relocates, gets it back with Hield on him off a switch, right? And then he pulls up comfortably, swish. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at it, that's where he just natural instincts, didn't think. He fought through mentally. And then you can see him even his, looking more tired running back when he's running back on defense. And that's where I'm like, okay, Kawhi, he made a jump shot. I like that, right? Then what happens now? What happens is, what's it called? Kawhi now again, they make a take on the other end, I think a tip or whatever by Barnes. Kawhi gets it again with Barnes on him, and he got lucky that actually Barnes dropped because, again, that would have been a bad force pickup situation again. Barnes falls, then he hits him with a comfortable, slow Euro layup, right? So then now when you look at it from that perspective, like you could just see, like, just clear fatigue when I look at it. I just see fatigue, not moving comfortably. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing things like that, and it shouldn't have to be applied like that. It shouldn't be where, you know what I mean, oh my God, this is that anus and all that type of stuff. It shouldn't be like that, right? So when I look at it from that perspective, it's just atrocity, right? It's just atrocity. But he made the layup. Then what happens now? Obviously, they foul. What's it called? What happened? Holmes makes a dunk, and then now they need a three. They have no timeout, right? And then I didn't like this three. I wanted Lou to take it. I like the idea of Lou taking it, but just catch and shoot taking it. I mean, I trust that more than I trust Kawhi's catch and shoot three. So, or, just shoot three contests. But, Louisville missed it. They got the out of bounds. They got it back, and then they went to Batum. Like, that even tells you that, like, they're even going away from Kawhi in these three situations. So that's not a good look because Batum took it contested. He rattled it. But the fact that they're not even looking at Kawhi's way, which, again, for me, I think that's actually better. But hierarchy-wise, is that actually better? So we'll see how that plays out. That's just something I'm saying pay attention to. Because, again, you don't want them now when it really matters that they go away from Kawhi completely, right? You don't want that to happen. But that's situational, so I'm not mad at that. But the way they just two shots, you don't even go to him. That I didn't expect that. I didn't mean that. I meant like, okay, maybe one time, if it didn't work, okay, let him go again, right? But Batum did get a slightly okay look. But if I want contested Batum or I want contested Kawhi, I think I want Kawhi, even though it did rattle. It's not due to the result. I'm not mad at the fact that he rattled. Like, it wasn't a bad miss. He actually almost hit it. But I'm just looking at the principle of what's going on, and it's the hierarchy of what's going on. The fact that Louisville got an opportunity, then missed, automatically, if I'm Kawhi, it's my time. You already went away from me and missed. Okay, I gave you that time. Come now. You know what I'm saying? But they still, inbound is situational play, Ty Lue play, you know what I'm saying? They just trusted it, went through, and he almost missed it. So, you know what I mean? I guess, overall, you're not mad at it as a viewer, but if I'm someone that's, rooting for the Clippers and I'm looking at what this could do moving forward, this could be a detriment if it's like consistently they keep, every time they need a three, no Kawhi, PG, Louisville, Batum. Like, that's not going to play out well. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to play out well. But, again, in this situation, they go to PG every time. I'm not mad at that. I'm okay with that. Especially in a year where PG's cooking. Even if it, like, PG coming off the screen in situationals, he's always been, he's pretty good at that anyway. So that's not something that's ever been a knock on him. But after they missed that, then the ball game was basically done after that. But, you know what I mean? This is just a clutch dive into how they moved in the clutch. Just a breakdown to how they moved in the clutch. Now, a lot of it, like I didn't like the defense from Kawhi on Fox in those situations. Morris didn't box out that one tip in with Barnes. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain mental breakdowns that a championship caliber team is not supposed to do, which I didn't like in this situation. But the long run, I did like the fact that they were in clutch games and they were able to, obviously without PG, but they were able to actually see how they would move with a new coach, with, you know what I mean, being in this clutch situation, the kind of things they're going to do, the kind of things they're going to move, how they're going to move, how they're going to play these things. I did like that they got these opportunities to kind of fine tune, to kind of fix out, get the kinks out, get the WD-40 off, you know, kind of see how they're going to move in these situations. I did like that. That's something, obviously, I always rather prefer than every game blow. Obviously, you want some game blowouts, but I do want clutch games. I want to see how you move so you can get those reps in the clutch, get the practice in the clutch. It's the same thing with the Nets. I do like how the fact that, obviously, it's not good that every game's like that, but sometimes you do like it to be a close game. I want to see your ability. I want to see how you guys move. Not only just me seeing it, I want you guys to get comfortable doing it. Get those practice opportunities. Practice, you can't practice clutch. You can only practice clutch from real live game situations. And based off of that, the more you're in it, the more you're able to thrive when it now matters in the playoffs because you've been there, done that. We know what works. We know what don't work. We know what maybe might work. You know what I mean? You can't. It's better to have more reps than not. It's worse just blowing out everybody. And then now in the playoffs, it's bare clutch games and you don't know how to move. And it's your first time trying those. It's trial and error now when it matters. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. So I am happy that they got these things. You know what I mean? I'm happy with that. Obviously, I'm not happy with the results that they lost. But there's positives and negatives within each of these things. I'm not too fully worried. Like, there's certain things like the wear and tear and the things like that's the main worry for me. Like, I don't want Ty Lue to make this a habit where maybe he only played a back-to-back because PG wasn't going to be available, right? So maybe that's why it's like you have to now, Kawhi. Maybe. But if this is something that is like they're just always going to, every game, if it's not fully, like, he can't play due to actual, like, injury, it's still an injury, but like he just tweaked it last game or whatever, and because it's not there, he's just always gonna play him because now remember, media's made it where the Clippers need to play, Kawhi needs to play, need to do something different than what they did last year, and then you're just gonna play him all those times. That's gonna affect him playoff time. We haven't seen Kawhi under those circumstances ever since he's being diagnosed with the wear and tear and all those type of things. We haven't seen him play bare games like that in a row and then still snap in the playoffs. So that's something where I would have to just rely on hope. I've never seen that. Under the new Kawhi. Other Kawhi, when he's healthy, we've seen that. But in the new Kawhi, we haven't seen that. We've seen him get the rest he wants, get his load management, and then he snaps. He's going to rise his level of play, so you don't question the load management. And even last year in the bubble, even though they lost, obviously, from a 3-1 lead, he still did exactly what he did with the Raptors in terms of regular season. He's here, and then playoffs he rises his level of play. He did that versus the Mavs. He did that versus the Nuggets, and only the one game it now affected him. You know what I'm saying? And that was more so not to the fact that during the season he didn't play, he got load management. They take that out of context. What happened and what affected him is the fact that they went from rest or from playing and getting familiar and getting rhythm to now pandemic, 5 months off. That's why you've seen him come back in the season games looking atrocious. You get what I'm saying? And then even still with that playoffs, he rolls it up. But he's not used to, like, his knees aren't used to the fatigue game factor. So that's where now you could see, okay, that literally destroyed his, that he got fatigued in all three. Body, mind, and and his knees as well. Physical. You know what I'm saying? He got fatigued in all three factors. So, and when I mean body, physical, I mean his actual, like, you're panting, short of breath, so lung capacity, and then your body is actually like your knees or your body is physically tired, you know what I'm saying? So that's those two, and then mental fatigue, you know what I'm saying? So basically, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, this is not, I don't want to see that, but at the end of the day, you already know. We'll see how they move moving forward. Obviously, that's kind of like my breakdown between what happened in the clutch with the Kings and the things that I paid attention to with the Kings and the Celtics, even though when there are 2 losses. But, when PG comes back, there's a lot of things that will fix naturally when they're fully healthy, Pat, Bev, the rest, right? So I won't give a full assessment and kind of write them off just because of these 2 losses. Definitely not doing that. You already know. So I appreciate y'all. You already know it's True Talks, because True Talks. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here, and there's no drought here. You feel me? Thank you for coming for that IQ. Because that's what I do. You already know. We'll see how they play in the next game. You already know. Bruh. Let's see what Ellie looks like. Kawhi, you know why. Oh, and don't forget, share, like, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. You already know, man. And I'm out, man.